Hey, hi, we're excited to be here on a Saturday, and we're excited that you're here with us on a Saturday. Um, my name is Dalila Lopez, and I work with the LAC USC Medical Center Foundation. We are a nonprofit that's been, the foundation itself has been around for quite a while, and I'll go a little bit more into that detail later on. And Anna, who is here with me, is intern who has been amazing support for us in this project. And she's actually a resident of Baldwin Park. So I think she went to the same high school as some of you. That's great. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Mhm.
So a little bit about us. We're the foundation is located at the Walnut at the historic general campus of the LA County Hospital. The historic Los Angeles Hospital is the first public hospital to exist in, I think in the United States actually, but for sure in California. So the Wellness Center itself it's based off what the original purpose of the hospital was. We're here to provide free services to the community. It doesn't matter if you have health insurance or not, if you come of means or you don't. We offer services for mental health, healthcare access, food, housing assistance, nutrition, health education, and a bunch of other things. So myself and Ana and Cristina Cardenas, who is not here with us today, we are funded through this grant that we received through the Department of Public Health, which is why you see County of LA Public Health on logo all over these slides, to really talk to the community and about the harmful effects of vaping and electronic cigarettes, and to really advocate for us to find a way to end the use of this, the flavored tobacco here in Baldwin Park, and then we're also funded for another jurisdiction, which would be South Pasadena. So our goal overall is to improve, and you can read this on the slide as well, but I'll say it, is to improve healthy breathing environments and healthy futures by reducing youth access to flavored tobacco, which is all of you. If you can go to the next slide, please. So one of the things that we do talk about is public health. So I am very passionate about public health, so much so that I went back and got my master's in public health, with the emphasis in health policy. And so what we do when we talk about public health, we mean health equity, right? Everybody should have access to health everywhere, whether it's in their environment, whether it's, access to health insurance, whether it's access to, a doctor or, medicine or, and everybody should be able to afford it. You shouldn't have to worry about paying for your asthma medication or paying for your diabetes medication. And at the same time, worry about paying for, your rent or food. And you should have clean air, just like other more affluent areas have clean air. So that is when we talk about the good thing about public health and why I love public health so much, because it covers everything. It doesn't just focus specifically on your health and how to fix it. It focuses on your environment, it focuses on your access to education, it focuses on everything. And that is what public health is. But it also focuses about educating communities, right? On not only just making them aware that there may be discrepancy and how what they access they have to certain things like clean air, but also being aware of, like, because they live in lower income communities, they may be targeted more by the tobacco company. And if you are of a certain ethnic group, you might actually have, like, for example, we'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but menthol cigarettes were created for African Americans to target them. And so that's why they have an issue with quitting menthol cigarettes, because the tobacco company specifically created the menthol cigarette for them. It also created vaping for youth, so there's different topics, and I can go on and on and on, and I'm not going to, so I'm gonna ask Anna to go on to the next slide before I keep going on and on. Oh, sorry about that. You guys didn't get to hear my rant about how I love public health so much. But let's talk a little bit about Red Ribbon Week. So Red Ribbon Week, and their logo is "Be happy, be brave, be drug free." So Red Ribbon Week has been around since 1985, but specifically 1989 when it actually became official. So it's been around since I was in elementary school, and I remember getting the red ribbons and putting them on myself. I actually didn't know the history until I started preparing for this presentation. So if you see this man right here who actually looks kind of scary and suspicious on your screen, Red Ribbon Week became a thing because it was to honor him and his work. So he is actually a DEA agent, so Drug Enforcement Agency agent, who was tortured and killed by drug cartel in 1985. And so because of his death, and because the drug cartel did not want him to be working, and he had this belief that although he was just one person, the fact that he was one person who was working to make a difference and a change, that was enough. And so a lot of coalitions were built around this belief of like, one person can make a difference. It doesn't matter. Like, even though I'm just that one person, if I'm working towards being drug-free, towards limiting access to youth, then that's enough for us. And that's how River Week was born, off his belief and the fact that he was tortured and killed by these drug cartels that obviously didn't care about who had access to drugs. They just wanted to make money. We now have been celebrating this for a really long time. I can't do the math. I mean, I was born in 1986 and I'm 34, so 35 years of Red Ribbon Week. So as you can see in the slide, it became a catalyst to mobilize communities to educate youth and encourage participation in drug prevention activities. And it is sponsored by the National Family Partnership, and it is the largest drug prevention campaign in the nation. So I know I grew up with it, and kids are still growing up with it. So wear your red ribbon proudly. It's actually very important to be drug-free. Next one, and then I'm switching over the microphone, or I'm handing the microphone over to Anna for this one.
Okay. So just to, we'll say break the nerves, something, but we're gonna do a small icebreaker. So I'm gonna say a few statements, and either with your camera on or off, doesn't matter. I want you to hold a finger up if the statement's true to you. And don't worry, this is a safe space. We won't judge you. We just want you to be open if you are willing to. Okay. I know someone who smokes. Someone in my family smokes. A close friend of mine smokes. I personally smoke. I have been curious about vaping. I have been offered to smoke. And I have tried smoking. Okay, so I couldn't see all you guys' fingers, but from just the small ones that did, sorry, I feel so distracted. Okay. This is obviously a very important issue, and we're here to actually talk about it and just make people aware and advocate for it. So let's start off with a little question. What is an e-cigarette? Anyone tell me what an e-cigarette is?
Vape.
Isn't it like a pen or something like that? Like the electrical cigarettes?
Yeah, it's basically that. So an e-cigarette is an electronic cigarette, and so it's a handheld battery-powered vaporizer that stimulates smoking and provides some behavioral aspects of smoking, including hand-to-mouth action, while doing this without burning tobacco. So let's see if I get my laser pointer out. Okay, so
We also had some, I'll read the ones, sorry, Anna, but I'll read the ones in the chat. So Michelle said electronic cigarette, and Ashley Capuzano said pen, and Melanie said electronic cigarette.
sorry,
I'll be fast.
I can't do the chat or the video feed, so go ahead and like put on the chat and then let you read it for me. So right here is where the vapor is inhaled. And then right here, these little arrows. And then here is a nicotine cartridge, which holds the liquid and the liquid nicotine. Right here. The atomization chamber which heats the solution while vaporizing it. This is where the rechargeable lithium battery. And then right here is the LED light. So it like lights up when you're inhaling the vapor. So there's different types. There's disposable e-cigarettes, which are just normal, just disposable ones you have and throw away once they're done. Then there's rechargeables, which are Juuls and Sorens. Then there's medium tank devices, which are the vape pens. And there's large tank sizes, which are mods. Then there's e-cigars and e-pipes. So with that, I'm going to point to, again, sorry about that. I'm going to point to one and I want you to tell me what type of e-cigarette it is. If it's a disposable, medium, large, or rechargeable. Let's go with this one.
So I actually can't see what you're pointing at, Anna, but Andrea said large tank and Kent said medium.
Mm-hmm.
It's in large. Let's
go with an easy one. This one.
Many people are saying it's large.
Well, it could, but it's actually
Andrea said disposable.
It's actually an e-pipe. It's just an electronic pipe. Let's go with another one. Let's go with these right here. These are puff bars.
Did you just give the answer?
No, I gave
By
them.
saying- Oh, I'm reading disposable in the chat. Lots of disposable.
Is it right?
Comments.
Let's do one last one. Should be the easiest one. Let's go with this one.
Mm.
Those are rechargeable. You could change the cards and everything. So
yeah. You guys got it. So I'm going to pass this to Dalila.
Yes. So one of the ones, the one that we finished off on was the rechargeable, the Juuls, right? So the Juuls is leading this new epidemic. Benzoic acid is something that Juul patent. It's an acid, obviously, that or a chemical. The Juul actually got a patent on because it reduces the harshness of a hit of the Juul aerosol, which means that it makes it easier to smoke and therefore easier to become addicted to tobacco. So if it's easier for you to inhale the smoke and not feel, I don't know if any of you have smoked, not going to ask, but if you've been around smoke, you realize, especially like regular cigarettes, you realize how harsh it is, right? The smell of it. You can imagine inhaling that, but this benzoic acid that Juul has the patent on reduces that harshness. So it's a lot smoother going in, a lot smoother. So people are more likely to go for the Juul pod. So just so you know, one Juul pod equals the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. So when somebody is smoking cigarettes, they have to open up their box of cigarettes. They have to take out the cigarette. They have to, usually, if they're kind enough and thoughtful enough, they walk out of the room that they're in. If they're talking to a friend or family member, they have to walk outside. They have to grab the lighter or the matches. Have to light up the cigarette, sorry. And they smoke it. They sit out there and they're smoking it, and they're disengaged from the party they were with, and they're out there and they're smoking. They turn off the cigarette, they finish it, and they come back inside. So it's a process, right? But when you're smoking in Juul, it doesn't hurt your throat going down. The smoke is not as bothersome as a regular cigarette. You get to stay indoors with your friends, with your family members, and you're just smoking, or you could be outside, and you're smoking it, and it smells tiny bit like strawberries or a tiny bit like vanilla. It doesn't really disrupt your day-to-day life. So you're sitting there and just smoking it, and you could go through a whole pod in a couple or 3 hours, or in a day, And it's not going to take you, I don't, and I wish I knew this, and I think at one point I did know how many cigarettes are in a box, right? And a pack of cigarettes. Anna, do you know how many cigarettes are in a pack of cigarettes?
I want to say it's anywhere, depending on the size, I think it's anywhere from 20 to 30.
So 20 to 30 in a pack, right? So one pack is the same amount as the tiny little jewel pod, right? So you can go through that in half a day, in a few hours, and it just depends how often you're smoking. Versus a pack of cigarettes, you have to go through the whole pack, and you're visually seeing how many you're smoking. And so if you're trying to be quick, you're going to try to smoke less, right? So the amount of nicotine, it's people are smoking more and more with the jewel pod. People are like, oh, the jewel is so much, it's better for you. It's, you know, not as toxic. No secondhand smoke. By the way, there is still secondhand smoke with the jewel or any other type of e-cigarette. And so becoming more addicted to it, and they're using more of it. So it's like this hidden danger, right? Because people don't think about how much nicotine is in that tiny little pod. They might think that a little one, but those little pods the same thing as an individual cigarette. Next, Anna. Yes, Alan, I completely agree with you. It has high concentration of nicotine, therefore it's worse than regular cigarettes. And then a lot of people are also saying, like, you know, it's reusable, so you're using less, there's less trash. But we have to, if you've taken an environmental class or have taken and joined any conversation about that, you realize that the carbon footprint is not just based on what you're throwing away, but how much it takes for you to actually produce these new products that are electronic and reusable. So next one, we're talking about, sorry, this is usually what Christina presents. So this is my first time presenting these slides. So the aerosol emitted from heated e-liquid emits toxic chemicals, right? So a lot of people are thinking, like, you know, they smell better, they are supposed to be better for you. And the reason why people are thinking is because these tobacco companies pay a lot of money to promote these as a better option. But they're actually known, these chemicals that are in this e-liquid are known to cause cancer, birth defects, and other reproductive harms, right? They also cause brain damage, lung damage, addiction, memory loss, attitude changes. And if you see the last part of the slide, the toxicity of a 60 milligram dose of liquid nicotine is similar to even higher than that of cyanide, right? So everybody's thinking it's a better product, but it's produced in the lab. You know, these are all chemicals that have been known to affect and damage our bodies, and we're just consuming it, not realizing that this is actually not good for our bodies. Obviously, all of you here are hopefully after this presentation now know this. Next, Anna. And so the other chemical that's also very well known is called diacetyl, and it causes popcorn lung. Does anybody here know what popcorn lung is? Or heard of it? Or not currently craving popcorn? No? Okay, so popcorn lung. Oh, great, thanks. Melanie has heard of it. Popcorn lung is when your lungs, they trap air in. So and so has Lisette. Your lungs, there's tiny little alveoli at the end of each bronchi, right? We all know we have bronchi in our lungs. They're like little tree branches. There's little alveoli. In those little sacs of air, that is where we do the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Right, that's where we breathe in oxygen and we're going to breathe out carbon dioxide, and that transition happens in those tiny little air sacs called alveoli. So popcorn lungs, what they do is keep those, they cause so that those little air sacs lose their elasticity. So it's like an old stock that can no longer stay up because it's no longer elastic, right? Same thing with those little air sacs, stay open. And so you end up with all these like little balls all over. And so they're hardened, and that exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen in your lungs is hard. It's no longer happening as often, and you have more carbon dioxide in your body, so you're more tired than you have oxygen. And diacetyl, if held, can cause popcorn lung. It has been approved, the diacetyl has been approved for popcorn butter flavoring, so it tastes a little buttery. And it also gives, if you know about wine, white wine is usually drank with fish and chicken and, you know, turkey. So you might see it around for Thanksgiving if you have wine drinkers in your family. It gives it that buttery taste. And it's been approved by the FDA for us to consume it orally, but not to inhale it, right? So we should not be inhaling it. But we do, it's found in these chemicals, these diacetyl. It's, like I said, it causes this damage in your lungs. And if you have asthma, it's worse for you. If you have COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or emphysema, this is really bad for you. Next, Anna. Any questions so far before we go on to this video? No? Awesome. Go ahead, Anna.
You think vaping isn't dangerous, but your body knows the truth. Disobeyvape.com.
Okay, so, excuse me. So a little small pop quiz again. What are 3 different types of e-cigarettes?
Disposable, rechargeable, and the e-pipes.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Hanson from the chat says rechargeable, disposable, and jewel. And Michelle says disposable, rechargeable, and pipe.
You guys are good at this. Okay, so we're gonna watch another video.
People have been smoking for at least 7,000 years, but it wasn't until the 1800s that cigarettes became the smoke of choice, after machines were developed to mass produce them. 200 years later, in 2003, the electronic cigarette was invented in China, and since then the use of e-cigarettes, also called vaping, has grown exponentially around the world. E-cigarettes are electronic devices that vaporize a flavored liquid. They all used to look like cigarettes, but now they come in many shapes and sizes. Many look like pens or small boxes called mods. What they all have in common is 1. A power source, usually a lithium battery. 2. An atomizer, which heats the e-liquid. 3. E-liquid or e-juice, which usually contains flavors and nicotine. And 4. A cartridge or tank, which is filled with e-liquid. Heating the e-liquid creates a cloud of vapor that looks like smoke, but without a lot of the lethal components contained in tobacco smoke. Many people assume e-cigarettes are safer than traditional cigarettes because they don't burn anything or create tar in your lungs. But it took almost 7,000 years for humans to realize that tobacco causes lung cancer, throat and mouth cancer, causes heart attacks and strokes, and damages the lungs. E-cigs, meanwhile, have only been around a little over a decade, so there just hasn't been enough time to figure out what effects they'll have on your body. We do know that e-cigarettes deliver nicotine just like the traditional cigarettes, causing increased heart rate and blood pressure. Nicotine also has powerful effects on the brain. It releases rewarding neurotransmitters in the brain, like dopamine, and changes brain chemistry. It is a stimulant, making people feel more alert, but when it goes away, people crave it even more. It can interfere with the body's own natural ability to make dopamine, and soon the user needs nicotine just to feel normal. The developing brain of teenagers is the most vulnerable to these effects. The powerful addictive nature of nicotine is so high that it's comparable to heroin and cocaine. Besides nicotine, e-cigarettes contain chemical solvents. When heated very high by some of the new e-cigarette devices, these solvents can be transformed into formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. These observations are concerning, but we really do not know what the long-term effects from inhaling these chemicals in your lungs will be. E-cigs contain many other chemicals to generate enticing flavors. In fact, there are almost 8,000 different flavors available today, so we don't know very much about many of them. We do know that some of the butter flavorings contain diacetyl, which is famous for causing popcorn lung. Popcorn lung is a disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is basically an irritable irreversible scarring and destruction of the delicate lung tissue that can kill you. Strawberry and other healthy-sounding fruit flavors have been found to be cytotoxic and potentially cancer-causing as well. Vaping devices, or specifically the lithium batteries inside them, may explode unpredictably. Although uncommon, this happens frequently enough that e-cigarettes have been banned from luggage on airplanes. Unpredictable explosions have occurred in people's faces and mouths and resulted in serious injuries, including blindness. With these potential risks of e-cigarettes, the addictive nicotine, the exploding batteries, the carcinogenic liquids, why would any company want you to use them? Sales of e-cigarettes approach $8 billion per year and are increasing. The truth is, tobacco cigarettes kill about 50% of people who use them. So tobacco companies, known as Big Tobacco, need to keep recruiting young people to become addicted in order to stay in business. Here are some actual documented quotes from tobacco executives. "We don't smoke that shit, we just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, and the stupid. The base of our business is the high school student. The fragile self-image of the young person needs all the support it can get. Smoking may appear to enhance that self-image. Studies show that when people start to smoke in their teens, they become addicted and stay smokers as they grow older, even those who swear they will never become addicted. Many of the same strategies that Big Tobacco used to hook your grandparents into smoking tobacco cigarettes have simply been modified and are being used today with an e-cig in place of a tobacco cig. E-cigarettes come in candy and dessert flavors like Skittles, gummy bears, and vanilla cupcake, directly aimed at teens. Ads always show thin, beautiful people vaping. Even the strategic use of humor is being successfully used to get customers on their side. The bottom line is that we are all faced with important personal choices every day. We don't yet know everything we need to know to make informed decisions about many things, but we can resist being manipulated. Take your time when making your own personal decisions. It can make all the difference.
Okay. So speaking of flavors, we're gonna do a little game. How many tobacco flavors or e-cig flavors can you name in 2 minutes? So there's rules. Let me pull them up right now because I forgot. So the rules are you can't search any of these flavors up. You'll have 2 minutes to do it. Write as many as you can in the chat, but don't submit them until we say time's up. So they should look like this. They can either look like one of these two. Okay. Everyone got that? Can you put a timer on, Dalila?
All right, so starting as of now.
I'll look at them go. Okay, so let me see if the next slide is really fast. Okay, so while I look at all these flavors, Dalila will
Continue.
yes.
So next up, we're going to talk about do flavors to attract youth, right? Definitely, 100%. This is why the tobacco company created this tobacco to attract youth. Just like how I created menthol as a flavor to attract LGBT communities and the African American community. It's how they came up with the flavored tobacco. So one of the things that the tobacco company probably saw, and this is just me thinking, was that because there has been so much research that has come out how harmful tobacco and smoking is, there has been a decrease in using traditional tobacco, cigarettes, cigars, pipes, right? Even the baseball players were known to chew tobacco, and now they stopped doing that or chewing gum instead of chewing something else. Because there's like gum disease that comes out of gum cancer, throat cancer, lung cancer. So in the beginning of smoking, nobody knew how harmful tobacco was or smoking was. Fast forward to about 10, 20 years ago when e-cigarettes came out, and tobacco companies started getting scared. Like, how are we going to stay in business if people are not buying cigarettes like they used to? We're going to create flavored tobacco, and we're going to attract youth. And these flavored cigarettes are starter products for these youth. And that's why actually Congress banned them in 2009 with the exceptions of menthol, but we still have e-cigarettes, right? We still have that flavored liquid that kids are attracted to, because not only are they creating strawberry flavor, vanilla flavor, chocolate flavor, but they're also creating now things that we are familiar with from our youth, such as like Captain Crunch flavor, or not allowed to eat a lot of sugary candies, so Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops is one of those as well. So those type of things wouldn't work on me because I didn't eat flavored cereal when I was younger, but somebody else who grew up eating that cereal and now doesn't eat it is going to be attracted to that. Flavors such as like cotton candy. When you think about cotton candy, you think about being at the fair. You think about, this warmth feeling of happiness, kind of comes with that memory. When you think about watermelon, you think about summer. These are associations that exist with these foods. The kids are more likely to be attracted to because they feel like home. But also they're curious. Young people are so curious, which is why I actually love working with young people, because they wonder about everything. They're so curious, they want to know about everything, and they will try out everything. And they're not as scared as somebody who's maybe already fallen and injured themselves a million times because they're older now and have lived longer. And these flavors are appealing, and they're also more likely to be influenced by their peers. And so that's why these flavored tobacco is targeting these kids. They're like, well, how do we get these kids to start smoking again? Because they know that it causes lung cancer. We're going to market this as a better product, and we're going to market it with flavors that are familiar and are enticing to kids. Next slide, please.
Okay. Before I do, looking at all of them, and you all are basically right. I also noticed you guys put strawberry first almost every single time, and I wonder if you all just like texted each other.
Or maybe everybody likes strawberries, and it reminds them of strawberry cake and pie.
Good point. So there's a ton of flavors. Sorry, I'll let say it in a little bit, but there's a ton of flavors. The last time I checked, I want to say it was like a few days ago, it's 15,500 flavors out there in the market.
So they're doing it, and through these surveys and this research, and I'm telling you, Big Tobacco, as it is known, the tobacco company, they have so much money to invest in research and focus groups and all these different methods to get information from their consumers or their future consumers. So there's three categories of flavors. There's candy, there's fruit, there's alcohol flavors. And one of the things when I first started working with flavored tobacco and vaping and all of that was just like, I think it's so funny because they have candy for the people who have no shame in eating candy, and then they have the fruit. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, in my childhood, my dad raised me to be very healthy, and he would not let us eat candy. And he was always talking about, eat your fruits, even if it was canned fruit and syrup, that was better than a chocolate bar, right? So if I was younger and I was like, okay, well, which one should I get of these three things? Automatically, my brain would say, go for that fruit flavor because the fruit is the healthier option. So the tobacco company has thought about everything, right? Like, we're going to attract the people that are trying to eat healthy by having these fruit flavors such as kiwi and peach and mango and grape. We're also going to attract the people that, love candy and sugar. So let's go for Candy King and, that looks like Sour Patch Kids in this image that we have here. The bottom one, those are Swisher Sweets. So Swisher Sweets can be sold individually, or they can be sold these tiny little packets, and they're cheaper. They're like $2.99 or $3.99. People are, if they can't afford to get an actual electronic contraption to do eat smoking, then they might get these Swishers, and they are flavored, and they are better than regular cigarettes when you consume them. And then the next one, Anna. So not only does, for example, Juul have the benzoic acid that helps you reduce the harsh, but these flavors also help mask the naturally harsh taste of tobacco, which makes them even more appealing to youth, because who wants to consume something does not taste good. Not me. But if you start off with flavored tobacco, and then what happens is that you become addicted. And it's easier to continue to smoke and switch over to regular, cigarettes, because at this point you're now addicted and you're starting to smoke regular cigarettes. And as you can see this slide here, the U.S. General has declared an e-cigarette use among youth an epidemic because so many youth are using e-cigarettes, and then they will transition to using regular cigarettes. And some of them, especially if they're doing e-cigarettes, they will go and start using marijuana in their e-cigarettes. And it's not just that it's marijuana, right? There's HTC and CBD. And usually when you're starting to use chemicals to consume marijuana, you start using HTC, because HTC is the one that causes the high, versus CBD is the one that's associated with having health benefits. And so once they'll start getting produced in the lab, they start lowering the CBD and they start increasing the HTC. But in regular, I'm not promoting marijuana use, by the way, but in regular, if you were to just smoke marijuana, there is a natural balance that exists in the plant. Once you start messing with it in the lab, that's when you start decreasing the benefits, and the HTC starts affecting youth's brain, adults' brain, anybody's brain. That's where reactions happen to them. So people who are more likely to start using flavored tobacco are more likely to then transition into using HTC products or regular cigarettes. So a lot of people say like that does not exist, the chain reaction or the starter drugs or whatever it's called, but in reality it does. You're more likely to use other products or other drugs if you start smoking at a young age. And one of the reasons is because smoking, our brain doesn't stop developing until we're 25, right? It continues to develop. And so if you start using these cigarettes at a younger age, it affects how your brain develops, and it affects your run or your fight. I don't know if any of you have taken AP psychology yet or any psychology class, but there's a fight or flight, right, reaction that happens in your body. If somebody is attacking you, you either fight or you run away. This reaction that is natural for your body is a lot slower if you start using these products at a younger age, because your brain doesn't fully develop. Aren't there vapes and e-cigs that are infused with THC and stuff like that? Yes, there are. And then there are different ones, wax pens and jewels contain different chemicals. Yes, they do. And Alan answered Kent. Awesome. But yes, they are. Because it's created in a laboratory, everything is mixed, and there's now like all these smoke shops are coming up and they have their own chemicals that they're selling. And right now, the city of Baldwin Park has you have to have a retail license to sell tobacco. But the same retail license does not include the sale of e-cigarettes or flavored tobacco. And that is one of the reasons why we're working here in Baldwin Park. You want to go to the next one, Anna?
So speaking of the companies, who are they trying to target? Obviously, it's you guys, teens, youth, but also certain communities of color, such as the Latinx community, the African American community, the American Indians, and the Asian community. And how exactly are they targeting them? They're targeting them with, obviously, the flavors. They're saying that they're not bad for you and that they're better than normal cigarettes. And they're doing this with the ads. Speaking of the ads, let's do a small quick activity. I want you to look at these pictures, and I want you to tell me what draws your attention to them.
So Melanie says color.
Okay.
There's lots of color. And the style they are formatted and the smiles.
Okay. How do they make you feel? Like if you were to see these scrolling through social media or just seeing them on a billboard, how would they make you feel?
Different people's color, popular trend.
Mm-hmm.
We left the thing in the chat.
I'm just gonna pull up the chat too. Let's open the chat up.
What is this? Looks like influencers are enforcing it, which can make others want to buy it or make the person buying it happy. They don't show the harmful information. The meme targeted the youth. Happiness. They make it look like it's fun and cool.
Cool. You guys basically answered the next question I was gonna ask. Why would they use these tactics to target you guys? Like with memes and having influencers promote them and like these vibrant colors and you know, having like a food blogger type of way.
They're romanticizing it. Memes are interesting to youth. The memes, everyone likes memes because many youth are attracted to things on social media and trends. Social media is where we all are. We are heavily influenced by social media and peer pressure from different kinds of advertising. And they know it.
Sorry, my neighbors' kids are playing outside. They're so loud.
And so are mine.
Okay. So
Younger people are usually more naive.
So we're gonna do next slide. So we're gonna do a quick comparison. So this is an ad from, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 19.
An old ad, 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah, it's a really old ad. And then there's one when, I want to say when blue cigarettes just started coming out.
Ken said young people are more impressionable, so they think it's okay.
Okay. I want you to look at these pictures, these two ads, and I want you to tell me how are they similar and how they are different. Besides the fact that one's an older one, one's a newer one.
They both use attractive people as a marketing tactic. It makes them seem like cigarette attract people.
Okay. What else?
Both of the people are dressed like they are successful. It's basically sending the message that if you use the product, people see you as likable. They both have a couple as a tactic to show how cigarettes can make them feel lovely. However, the ad on the right is more modern, an accessory rather than addiction. I like that one. The being likable. If you use e-cigs or vape, you seem more attractive and richer than if you use cigarettes. It makes you look cool.
Okay. You guys basically got it.
You have both a man and a woman. The older one entices relaxation while smoking, while the newer one makes it seem like you're going to go partying. It's very fitting for new generations versus old one.
Mm-hmm.
Information on the bottom on the right side. The older one makes it seem like the man attracts the woman. The newer one makes it seem like the woman attracts the man. That is definitely something that's been noted before.
Mm-hmm.
We're right on the nose. Because there has been a movement for women empowerment.
Okay. You guys keep pumping. You guys keep typing away. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. If it would stop to it.
So I do have to correct myself. Somebody corrected me and then I meant to correct myself, but I, once again, was mistaken. It is THC, not HTC. I don't know why I always get that wrong. I'm not dyslexic, but I always get those wrong. So 80% of US middle and high school students who have ever used tobacco started with the flavor product. So it kind of goes on to the last thing that I was saying. So if it's the summary of this slide is that if you started smoking earlier, you will continue to use smoking to continue to smoke. And if you started, and like I said, if you used products that are chemicals and are produced in the laboratory, then you're have less control of what you're actually consuming. And you might be consuming the drugs in these, devices. Which is why we really want to promote an end to flavored tobaccos. We want to reduce access to youth because these are the most vulnerable. You are our future. You are the ones that are going to determine what happens to me when I'm in a senior home. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm in my own home, but I might be there. And you are going to vote in those elections and decide what policies should pass. And I want you guys to do that without being affected by these products that are targeting you, right? So we're protecting you now. We're working to protect you now. In the future, you can protect us. So it's all selfish, right? Kidding. But if you can go to the next slide, Anna. So how can youth be protected from flavored tobacco? So there's a few things that we can do. The first one is the tobacco retail licensing, right? It prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco. So Baldwin Park already has an existing tobacco retail licensing, but it only affects regular cigarettes. We want it so that it also includes in the licensing. We want to make this change where we are also including flavored tobacco. And we did a photo voice campaign with the Teen Center, but we are hoping to do it again. So that's one of the things that we're doing. The other one is establish a minimum cost and pack sizes for tobacco products. So one of the things we want to add to this new policy that we're trying to pass in Baldwin Park is you can no longer have like individual cigarettes being sold. You have to sell them in a package, and you can't sell them for cheaper just because you want to sell. So a lot of these like smaller liquor stores, they can put prices on there where it's like, all right, well, I'll sell you this pack, 3 for 9 cents or whatever it is, right? We want to make it so you can't do that anymore. So it's less enticing to youth who may be on a tighter budget, who they may be working or they might have an allowance. And so they're less likely to buy it because they can't afford it. We also want to restrict sales near youth sensitive areas such as schools and parks. If you have a business that's close to a park, if you have a business close to a school or a teen center, or, I would even say Starbucks, anything that a lot of kids hang out in, then you should not be selling tobacco. So those are the two major things that we're trying to do. And my dog just woke up, so I hope she doesn't start barking. That we're trying to do in Baldwin Park, really to restrict access to youth. So that it's not as easy. And we really want to ask your help. We are building a youth coalition that will be meeting next month, which is in a couple of weeks, to talk about how you can make a difference in Baldwin Park. So if you're interested in participating in this youth coalition, I think what we're going to do, we're going to ask Ashley and Vanessa to get that list to us, and then we are going to have a Zoom link and we'll share with them and they can share with you guys if you're interested in this youth coalition that will be happening. I believe it's in 2 weeks from now. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns? And thank you so much, whoever corrected me. I already forgot. I do want to read these last comments that I see on here. Kent said, rise from the ashes means leave the old cigarettes behind, which is what the tobacco company is doing. Melanie said the slogan on the newer one also seems to encourage people. And then Kent said, it's kind of sad that the companies have worked so hard to prevent tobacco use of regular cigarettes and now they have to focus on e-cigs too. And I completely agree with you. And it's this new slogans, they're selling it as, this isn't smoking, this isn't cigarettes, this is something new. They don't want to say that it's actually tobacco, that it's actually harmful. And all people are like, well, what do you know? Like, there has been that much research coming out that it's harmful. I'm like, yes, because it took years and years for us to really realize how harmful it was to smoke regular cigarettes. So it might take a little bit longer to really find out how to the extent of how harmful e-cigarettes consumption is for us. Lisette said, I always thought that e-cigarettes were just an unharmful alternative that could help smokers quit. I have never seen an advertisement for e-cigarettes. It just seems to pop up randomly as more people around me started it. How exactly does it spread that fast? Social media is one of the biggest avenues of spreading, you know, and encouraging people to use e-cigarettes because it's attracting youth. And my parents are not on social media, you know, they're not on Instagram, they're not on TikTok, they're not on anything like that. My parents are older than 60. So they're not going to see these ads, but the youth are, and they're going to see it on there because that's what they're using. How effective is tobacco gum to help people quit smoking? I actually wouldn't be able to answer that question. I think it varies per individual. Um, it also depends on how much of the gum they're actually using to quit smoking or the nicotine patches. I think it really depends on the individual. For this, I've had people that I know that have quit smoking because of nicotine patches because of gum. Is tobacco gum harmful? I haven't seen anything of that. It's not the actual product. So it's not supposed to be as harmful. Were e-cigarettes originally made to help people quit regular cigarettes? No, it was marketed for people to quit regular cigarettes, but e-cigarettes were created to replace the cigarette. They're still created by the same company. Does that make sense? So a while ago, it was last year, end of last year, I actually went. So the county of LA actually banned the sale of flavored tobacco. They banned the sale of e-cigarettes in all unincorporated areas. So every area in LA County that does not have a city or a city council can no longer sell products. And I was there, and you know, I had just started working in with tobacco, so I was there to learn more than to say anything. I actually was, because we're funded the way we're funded, I'm not allowed to say anything. So I went to learn, and there was all these people there, and I was like, oh, look at all these people, they're here to fight, you know, against the tobacco company. I was so excited, so naive of me, by the way. And I started talking to people, and they were actually all there because they were all smokers, and they didn't want the right to speak, you know, to smoke taken away. And there was a bust of this big group of high school kids that all came together, and they were there to support the banning of flavored tobacco, which I thought was amazing. And they were standing there and they're talking about it, and they're so passionate about it. And these are all high school kids. And adults are like yelling at them, telling them like, you don't know anything. You're trying to take away our rights to smoke. You know, how dare you? And I'm like, these older people that have been smoking for years don't realize that they're actually being controlled by the tobacco companies, because all these, you know, advertisements are controlling them, telling them to buy these cigarettes. You know, and I'm just like, how sad. There was so many people. I was there for hours because all of them are allowed to speak on behalf or against. And they were like, you know, e-cigarettes help me quit. And they don't realize that actually that tiny little jewel pod is the equivalent of one pack of cigarettes. They don't know this. They're just saying like, I can now be with my family. I don't have to go outside to smoke. I can be hanging out with them. I mean, this smoke is still affecting, you know, your loved one's health. It's still affecting their lungs. Why don't government agencies like the FDA and FCC protect youth from these advertisements for e-cigarettes? And that's something we're working with. You know, it's hard to change policies, especially with so much money being involved. But that's what we're here. We're here to work on the government to get it together and, you know, really protect youth. Does nicotine cause memory loss, and how much? So because nicotine does affect your brain, it can affect short-term memory loss. That's all I know, that it can affect your short-term memory. I remember seeing memes about people losing their flavor mango pods during that time. Okay. Are there any existing programs to aid addicts to e-cigarettes to recovery? There are. We're looking into finding more for people who have these issues. We actually just, Christina and I don't think Anna was able to participate in that. We participated in the Department of Public Health. They had a work group, and so they're going to connect us with more resources. If anybody's interested, we'll send them over to Ashley and Vanessa so they can share with the group. It causes people to go mad when they lose their pods. Absolutely right. It makes them anxious. It makes them wanted, and so they're a lot more short-tempered. And like I said, our brain doesn't stop developing until we're 25. So it's so highly impressionable, our brain, during this whole time. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Thank you so much once again for correcting me. I don't know why I do that. What happens if youth are found smoking e-cigarettes? So I know that in the Baldwin Park, I know that if you are found, they obviously take away your, and especially in the high school, take away the cigarettes, and they they either suspend you or they have a whole procedure. I think if you're found outside in public, nothing will really happen to you, just because it's not actually illegal for you to, and you should not be smoking it. You shouldn't be purchasing it. The only time is if you try to purchase it, they have to deny it. And if they sell it to you, then they are the ones that are fined. The person that's selling the e-cigarettes. But I know there's a push to decriminalize youth from being put in jail or anything like that if you're smoking in public. For friends who are vaping. So there's tips on how to help friends who are vaping. Anna, do you want to answer that one?
So I know I haven't had that experience yet, but I know from hearsay that the best thing you can do is having a conversation with them and supporting them no matter what. If they decide to stop, then you support them. If they don't, that's okay for now until they realize that they should stop. You shouldn't be like badgering them on it, but just being there and supporting them is like the biggest thing they can have right now.
Sorry, go ahead.
I saw a question I really liked. Would starting smoking once the brain is fully developed be slightly better than smoking as a teen?
Yes. I mean, you should not be smoking it. It's still going to cause irreversible damage to your lungs. But at least your brain is fully developed and you will get to full capacity of your brain function. But this is, yeah, that answers that question. If you stop smoking, it's hard for your lungs to recover. The damage that is caused to your lungs, because your lungs are not like your liver, it's irreversible. So it will slightly get better, and you'll start detoxing. But if it causes hardening or if it causes any of like the popcorn lung, it's going to stay like that. It just will get worse. So a lot of people are like, well, I already smoked for X amount of years. I already damaged my lungs. I'm like, you can stop from it getting worse. And that's the biggest part. Like, you stop it from getting worse and you can let your brain start to heal. Although they won't ever be as they were before you started smoking. Some people rely on these e-cigarettes to keep them happy. So that's one of the things that we've discussed, is how a lot of people who do start smoking, it's because they're either depressed or they're anxious. So something's going on in their lives that pushes them or encourages them to smoke, right? So it's really, and I'm not I wish I was. I know a lot of people who are actually mental health professionals. How can we help someone who is like this, right? It's just finding what is causing their unhappiness and dealing with that. And if it's something that might need additional help, seeking therapy or seeking, medicine, there's no shame in that at all. Being able to talk to someone and help you go through it and process it, it's better than smoking. And it's easier said than done. I think me saying that to you, like, I feel like a fake person saying that to you, but that is the best thing that you can do. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So I have experience with that. During high school, I want to say, my senior year, I had one of the worst times in my life where it got to the point where, I'm sorry if I trigger anyone, but I attempted to end my life. And because of just recovering and dealing with all that, I ended up turning to smoking traditional cigarettes to cope with just my depression, my anxiety, and just everything that was going on in my life. Not until I want to say I hit 18, 19, I decided to go to therapy and just talk with my therapist, and got medication, and it's helped me a lot. Like, I haven't smoked in, I want to say, year and a half now, maybe 2 years, and I'm not gonna change any damage that I've done. Like, I've probably messed up my lungs like crazy, even though I already have messed up lungs because I have asthma because of secondhand smoke. so I know I've probably damaged them, but I never felt better or with that. I've never felt better than when I had them compared to when I don't have cigarettes.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Anna. There's no shame in seeking help whatsoever. And it's, if you have health insurance, it's cheaper. I used to work at a cashier at CVS. And I remember I used to sell these cigarettes and I was like, these are so expensive. I could do so much with this money. So it's, that's one of the things. And one of the policies that California did is that they started taxing cigarettes, to hopefully people would not buy as many cigarettes. Any other questions, comments, concerns? This is one center and give resources to the parents who don't believe that depression or anxiety are a real thing. We can definitely connect you. We have this amazing team, care coordination team, the wellness navigators, and they're experts in connecting our clients to services and resources. So if you want to reach out to me, I'll type in my email address in the chat and I will connect you with one of the amazing ladies. Unfortunately, we have no men, so I can't say amazing humans, and they all identify as ladies. So there's my email address. Actually, let me give you the shortened version because I do realize it's a really long name. We have 10 nonprofit organizations on site. One of them is Alma Family Services. They deal with counseling and restorative justice and what's the other word I'm looking for? Trauma-informed care. So they would probably be the organization to refer you to. We also have the East LA Women's Center. They do deal with domestic abuse survivors. They deal with rape survivors, and they deal with the youth. And then we have the YMCA, and they do a lot of youth programming as well as the gym. We also have Homeless Inc. They deal with homeless youth between 18 and 25. We have MAOF, which deals more with the elderly population. And we have LA Care. If anybody has LA Care, we have an actual family resource center there that can assist you with LA Care questions, which can be for counseling, for addiction, things like that. And then we have MCHA, if anybody needs any help with health insurance or knows anybody that might need that, as well as food stamps. They do both of those enrollment. We do also have legal aid for with neighborhood legal services. They deal mostly with health insurance, but they can refer you to anybody else if you need any legal assistance. And I think that's it for now that I'm thinking about. I might be missing someone because we're all working from home now. It's so hard not to. I'm trying to picture them in my mind as I'm going down the list. We have the intern program. That's a branch of Alma Family Services as well. So we have a lot of resources, and we also have external partners that we rely on. So I left my email address there. Any other questions, comments? Is anybody voting? Anybody old enough to vote? I voted today. Very excited. Soon, Kent and Lisa, you'll be able to vote soon. One of the things on the, so funny, Ashley just is 17. She's 17. So one of the propositions was to change the voting age to 17. So we'll see if that happens. All the future 17-year-olds, I guess, AOC 2024. A lot of support for that. All right, then I guess so. If anybody, nobody has any more questions, I'll switch it over to Ashley and Vanessa. We do have 2 gift cards that we're going to raffle off, but I think Ashley and Vanessa, correct me if I'm wrong, you are going to the raffle